Hey everyone, welcome back to Disney's Art of Animation Resort. We are in a family suite in the Lion King section, and it's checkout day, so that means it's time to talk a little bit about the resort and about the room, and I have a lot to say. So let's pull up a seat and we'll chat a little bit about everything that I think you want to know about this resort, and I'll give you my honest opinion of my experience here. Okay, so I want to start off this conversation talking about the resort itself. So it is a value resort. It falls into the value category. And there are two different types of rooms at this resort. There are the little mermaid rooms. Those are the most affordable, and they seem like more of what you'd come to expect from a value resort. We'll talk more about that some other time, so subscribe if you haven't already. However, there are also these family suites, like the one that I'm staying in right now. These rooms are bigger. They're definitely built to accommodate larger families, and quite frankly, they're comparable to a Disney Vacation Club villa. Not only do they have multiple rooms, but they also have a kitchenette, which is great for a number of reasons. So you do have multiple options in terms of what type of accommodation you're looking for when staying at this resort. Beyond that though, the resort itself has quite a lot to offer. The theming here is unbelievable. It is the epitome of magical, and that's not just on the outside. Even in the rooms, the theming just can't be beat. I haven't seen a room themed this well in a really long time. I mean, the resort itself, from the second you walk into the lobby, you have this amazing story that is starting to unfold. And then as you move your way through the resort, you walk into the movies themselves, and that extends all the way into like the mirror above your bathroom sink. So it doesn't stop here, and I think that that's fantastic. But let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of the resort so that you have an idea of what to expect. This resort is located on the Skyliner route, which means if you want to head to Hollywood Studios or Epcot, you're going to be taking the Disney Skyliner, which is great. It's a fantastic feature of staying at this resort, particularly if you don't have a problem with taking the Disney Skyliner. I know that's not the case for everyone, and so if you're not sure if the Skyliner is right for you, go ahead and check the description box of this video. We talk about the Disney Skyliner, and of course, if you have any questions about taking the Disney Skyliner or how it works, let us know in the comments down below and we'll be happy to answer them for you. But the Disney Skyliner isn't your only option for transportation. You also have access to the Disney bus system. That's going to take you to Magic Kingdom as well as Animal Kingdom. So that's great. They're both easy to use. They're both easy to get to from pretty much anywhere at this resort. The only exception is the Little Mermaid rooms. They are kind of far out, but it's really not that much of a walk to get from there to the bus or the Skyliner. Like with other Walt Disney World resort hotels, this place does have a ton of amenities. So there's an arcade, there is like an activity room where you can do various activities. Some come at an extra charge, some are just free. There are movies on the lawn. You can roast marshmallows. Like, there's a lot going on here, so that's a great reason to stay at this resort as well. And it's one of the reasons that I like staying on property. You really have the ability to not only immerse yourself in Disney, but it takes away the extra step of kind of getting to Disney and dealing with all the stress that can come with that. I know it's not stressful for everybody, but especially in the area of Walt Disney World, I know not a lot of people talk about this, but the surrounding areas aren't always the best, and not everyone is going to be comfortable wandering around every part of town that's here. So the ability to walk around, not need a car, and just be in Disney and be in a clean, safe environment, which isn't always possible depending on where you're staying off property, that's a plus to staying on property. It's a plus to staying at a resort like this. Okay, so those were the basics of the resort itself, but let's talk a little bit about the room. First and foremost, we have the pros, all of the good things about this room that I stayed in. As I said, theming impeccable here. Everything in this room is themed to Lion King. Like, it's just amazing. Even the floor makes you feel like you're in Lion King. It looks like pebbles. It's not just a generic tile or a generic wood floor. It looks like you are in the movie. But there's also a ton of other detail. You can see all of it if you go ahead and check out our room tour, but there are different details on the walls. The dressers look like they just pulled them out of the jungle. We have logs for footrests, and there's a lot of cool stuff just around these rooms. One of my favorite details is the tile in the bathroom. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love that sunset. So lots of great stuff in terms of detail. I also have absolutely nothing bad to say about the room size. It's huge in here. And like I said, it's very comparable to a Disney Vacation Club villa. I actually would compare this to a 1-bedroom villa. The only thing that this room is lacking in that case is a full kitchen, but you do have access to a kitchenette. So unless you're planning on cooking full meals and needing a full kitchen for your family, and you're thinking about DVC Villa versus this, I don't really see any need for a Disney Vacation Club villa because you have just as much space in this room and access to the things you need, like a refrigerator and a microwave. And I mean, we also have the sink in here, and it comes with paper towels and plates and everything that you need, although they are disposable, unlike a Disney Vacation Club 1-bedroom villa. But like, you have everything you need in here to bring food here, prepare really basic light meals, and just save a little bit of extra money by having food in your room versus getting it out in the parks. We also have to talk a little bit about the sleeping arrangements in this room. So there are 3 separate sections in this room. Of course, there's what I've been referring to as the master bedroom. This is great for the parents. It does have its own bathroom and it closes off. So you do have a space where you've got your privacy, you can be closed off from the rest of the family in that bedroom. But there are 2 other sleeping areas, which while they are not separate from each other, they are definitely divided. One is the living area, which has a television of its own and a pull-out couch that sleeps too. And then we have the area that I refer to as the dining area. So this is the table and chairs, and that has a Murphy bed that folds down and that also sleeps too. Now those 2 areas, the living and dining area, they do have a bathroom that is shared. And like I said, there is no divider between the 2, but it's definitely separate. And I think that that is great. I also think that it's worth noting that there's plenty of room to move around in either section, even when the beds are folded down. So it's not really cramped. I mean, of course, if you do have 6 people in this room, that's a lot of people for this room. And if your stuff is just all over the place, it might not work out very well, but there are plenty of places to tuck your stuff away so you can make this work and have plenty of space and not feel crowded. Now let's talk about some of the downsides, because of course with the good comes some bad. And before I get into it, I do want to say that this is going to be a little bit nitpicky, but there honestly wasn't too much to complain about overall. Either way, I do think that it's important to point out some of these things. So let's get into it. Let's start off by talking about the location of this room and the Lion King section in general. So Disney's Art of Animation Resort is divided up into multiple sections. We have the Cars section, we have Finding Nemo, then there's the Lion King. All 3 of those sections have family suites. Then of course there is Little Mermaid, and those are not family suites. Those are, like I mentioned, more of what you would expect from a value resort, so just standard rooms. The Cars section, Finding Nemo section, and Little Mermaid section all have their own pool, but the Lion King section does not. And so if you want to spend some time in a pool, you do need to travel to a different section of the resort. And you can go to any of the pools. However, your nearest 2 are the Little Mermaid pool, so the Flippin' Fins pool, or you can go to the Big Blue pool, which is located right near the lobby in the Finding Nemo section. Both of these pools are a short walk from the Lion King section, so it's not much of a to-do to get to either. However, when wandering through the resort and checking out these pools yesterday, I did notice that the Little Mermaid pool, as well as the Big Blue pool, which is the feature pool for this resort, are more crowded than the Cars pool. And what this ultimately means is that if you're looking for a more quiet pool experience, you have to really make your way all the way down to the Cars section, because the Little Mermaid pool is kind of loud and rowdy, and the same is true for the Big Blue pool. Of course, I do think it's important to note that you're not really getting a quiet pool experience here. There are a lot of kids and families who stay here, but I did notice this as kind of a detail, so I think it's important to keep that in mind and just prepare yourself. If you're looking for being in the pool all the time, you're not going to have access to a pool all your own if you're in the Lion King section. That said, the Lion King rooms are situated in a kind of nice area aside from the lack of pool. It's just a quick walk to the main building so you can get food fairly easily, and it's not too much of a walk from the Disney Skyliner, although it's not the most conveniently located section near the Disney Skyliner. That would be the Finding Nemo section. Now, when it comes to the room itself, there are a few downsides that I do want to mention. The first and most obvious is that it's rather loud in here, which makes perfect sense since we don't have carpeted floors. There's a lot more of an echo in here, which you might even be able to notice when checking out my videos, like my room tour or whatnot, which by the way, are all linked in the description down below. And because it's loud and because it's exciting and there are a lot of families who are here, you do hear a lot of noise, especially at the end of the day. So people are coming back from the parks, they're hyped up, they're excited from the end of the day. There are a lot of kids that are running through the halls and yelling. Not in a bad way, but just in an excited way, which is something that you should come to expect if you're staying in a resort like this, or honestly anywhere at Walt Disney World. Now, I mention this not because it's notably loud. It's really not any louder here than it's been at any of the other resorts that I've stayed at, but I do think that it's important to note if you're gonna be bothered by the noise, bring a white noise machine or something that you can play in the evening to maybe drown out the sound of families returning at the end of the night. And again, don't forget, the parks close at like 11 p.m. So you can expect people to be walking through the halls all the way into like 1 o'clock in the morning. And when it comes to the interior of the room itself, I don't have too much to complain about. It's a great room and the space is used really well. Again, it feels really big and really spacious. I honestly wouldn't have a problem sharing this with more people, but there are some details. There's some wear and tear in this room that stands out. Not because I don't think rooms get used and dinged up and scratches happen, because I know that they do, and I don't have any complaints about any of that. Like, I know that that happens, but there are a few things in this room, two in particular, that are they've seen better days, and I'm not sure why they haven't been addressed because they would be really easy to address. First, we have the trash can in this room. It's like a soft, pleathery material, and it has been dinged up. It just looks bad and it takes away from the rest of the room. It's not themed to anything, which doesn't seem like it would be a big deal, but in this room where everything is themed, it really does draw your eye because it doesn't fit the theme at all. And it looks rough, like I mentioned. It has some dings on it and it's like ripping. So I think that this needs to be fixed or something needs to be done because it really does draw the eye and it takes away from the room. It makes the room look in worse condition than it is, because honestly the room is in pretty great shape. And the other thing that really caught my eye is the makeup mirror in the bathroom. These makeup mirrors, they're the ones that are attached to the wall and they pull out, they have a light. These are available in Walt Disney World Resort hotel rooms pretty regularly. This one is like a breath away from falling right out of the wall. And that makes it really difficult to use and it adds a lot of extra stress. Because look, there are a lot of people who come here and they're worried about breaking things and ruining things. And just to be able to use a feature of the room without having the stress of it falling off the wall is, you know, it's nice to not have to worry about that. So it would be nice if this was replaced, and quite frankly, it ought to have been replaced prior to now. So I do need to mention that as well. It does take away from the room. It makes the whole room feel in worse condition than it is, even though it's in pretty great shape. Every other downside about this room is pretty basic, and it's the same type of thing that I see no matter where I'm staying, even at some of the newer rooms in deluxe resorts, like over in Disney Saratoga Springs Resort, there are things like this that happen. You know, paint is scratched, a little bit of paint or rub from a piece of furniture kind of rubs off and transfers onto the wall. There's like dings on the refrigerator. Like, these are things that are pretty standard. So I think you should come to expect that no matter where you're staying. Although in a perfect world, everything would be perfect all the time, but that's not reality. But honestly, none of it really drew my eye or impacted my experience because there are so many different colors and patterns. So there was other stuff to look at and I didn't really focus on the scratches or the dings. I really had to be like up close and looking in order to see them. Beyond that, the room itself was fairly comfortable, but nothing to really write home about. The bed was a bit noisy. There was some creaking just getting into bed. Again, it's elevated off the ground, which is great, but it comes with some downsides, and the noise is one of them. I also didn't feel like it was the most comfortable bed that I've ever slept on, but it also wasn't uncomfortable. So pretty average in that way. But honestly, that's about it in terms of things that I think are worth mentioning for a review. Beyond that though, everything is really personal preference. I felt like the shower, the walk-in shower, was a little bit small. There wasn't anything to put your foot up on so that you could wash or shave your legs, for example. So that was a bit of a downside, but again, that's a personal preference thing. Another thing that I would have liked to see in this room that wasn't here is a freezer in the mini fridge. This is something that you don't find all over the place, but it would have been nice. I say this all the time, having frozen drinks that you have access to in your room so that you can bring them to the parks with you, especially during the summer months, is really great. So it would be nice to have that, but I know that I'm being really picky. The only other thing that I want to mention, which is specific to my experience in this room, is that it was a little dusty and there were some things related to cleanliness that I would have liked to see handled or taken care of. One of the chairs at the table did have something sticky on it, so that's something that I noticed. It would have been nice if that was cleaned a little bit better. There are some stains on the couch, which is to be expected. It happens with these rooms, right? I didn't feel like it was gross, but it would be nice if it was treated, taken care of. But the most notable thing for this room was the dust. There was a lot of dust on the lampshades, and it doesn't look like they weren't cleaned. It looks like they were cleaned, but there were some clumps of dust that looked like they had been wiped down, but only briefly. You know how sometimes you'll wipe something down with a rag and there's like a trail of dust? You saw that on the lampshades in this room. Although when it comes to other areas, and we did look even up top on shelves that were above our reach, there was no dust. So, again, being really picky. But yeah, that about does it when it comes to reviewing this room. All in all, I had a really great time. It was a very magical experience. I felt like I was on vacation. And that's one of the things that you're paying for when you stay at a Walt Disney World Resort hotel. Although some of them just don't have the same amount of magic as this resort hotel does. So I definitely think that this could be a contender for one of my favorite resorts on Walt Disney World property, which is saying a lot, but the theming is just amazing. I don't know of anywhere else on property where you can get this type of experience and this type of theming throughout the resort as well as throughout the room. I do feel like this is how it should be pretty much everywhere, but I know that that's not for everyone. Regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you've ever stayed at Disney's Art of Animation, tell us about it. Tell us what you thought. If you were reviewing this resort, what would you say are the pros and the cons? Do you agree with anything that I said? Do you disagree? Would you consider staying here in the future? Tell me all about it in the comments down below. And of course, be sure to check that description so you can see more of the videos about this resort. There are a lot of them listed there. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, and you won't miss any of the stuff that we talk about. We do talk about this resort as well as other resorts on and off property all the time. So make sure you don't miss it. But like I said, that's about all. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.